In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to the Room to Breathe podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so glad that you made space to be here today. Now, before we get into this episode, do me a quick favor. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and share that live. Be sure to tap the screen, like, and comment. And if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in if a new episode drops. I also want to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you will find everything from affirmative apparel to motivational merch, as well as free resources to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, and most importantly, for you. Now, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. It is our way of saying I'm healing, I'm growing, and I'm showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Today, let me just first start by honoring my brother, Papa Smurf, okay? Every single day, without fail, he pours into his loved ones with a morning inspiration text. He doesn't just send words. He sends water for the soul, if you ask me. And this morning, y'all, his message to me did not miss. It hit me right where I was sitting, and it perfectly lined up with the download that God placed on my spirit. So this morning, my brother sent me a text that said, "Never become so thirsty that you drink from any cup that's presented to you. Be selective, be smart, be wise." Now, I don't know about y'all, but that quote right there just did something for me, okay? Listen, I feel like that quote right there would have been just enough to carry me through the week, right, Miss Glow? Like, but listen, we're going to let that quote bless us, and then we're going to take it a step further. All right? See, I want you guys to understand that thirst isn't always about water. It's about desire, right? It's about those dry places in your spirit, those longings in your heart that leave you restless, searching, and sometimes desperate. Okay. And we all have those areas in our lives, right? Where we just feel parched. Maybe it's love, maybe it's acceptance, maybe it's validation. And when we're thirsty, sometimes we'll just grab any cup that's placed in front of us. But here's the truth. Not every cup is safe to drink from. Some cups are filled with a poison that looks sweet at first, but it leaves a bitter taste afterwards. Wasted wellness, welcome in. Right? Some cups look shiny, attractive, and tempting on the outside, but on the inside they carry pain, betrayal, disappointment, emptiness. I mean, think about it. How many times have you reached for something thinking that it would satisfy your hunger or heal your heart, only to find out that it left you emptier than before? Maybe it was a relationship you gave everything and got crumbs in return. Maybe it was a friendship that drained you more than it lifted you. Maybe it was chasing approval, recognition, or success that looked good on paper, but it never quite nourished your soul. Thank you. Family, these cups that are presented to us may be subtle, right? Sometimes wrapped in compliments, convenience, or charm. Sometimes they show up as what you think you want, right? Or what everyone else says you need. And if we're not careful, we drink it anyway because we're scared to be thirsty, scared to be alone, scared to just wait for the right cup. But God doesn't want you drinking from the wrong cup. He doesn't want you settling for anything that steals your peace. I mean, look at Isaiah 55:1, where he says, "Come, all you all who are thirsty, right? Come to the waters." And you have no money, right? You have no money, but just come, buy, eat, right? Buy the wine and the milk without money, without cost. It's like God is inviting us to the only cup that truly satisfies, the only cup that doesn't leave you empty. And so today, let's just be honest with ourselves, right? Let's figure out which cups have we been sipping from that never truly nourish us. Which cups have we been chasing out of desperation instead of discernment? And the truth is, it's okay to be thirsty, but it's not okay to drink from the wrong cups because the right one hasn't arrived yet. So, defining your cup is about awareness. It's about recognizing the difference between temporary pleasure and lasting nourishment. It's about learning to say no to what doesn't align with your growth, your peace, your purpose, and saving your thirst for what God has already prepared for you. See, we have to understand that desperation clouds discernment, right? When we are parched, right, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, anything can look like nourishment. And that's exactly how the deception creeps in. Think back to the very first humans, right? Let's talk about Adam and Eve for a moment. In the garden, God provided everything that they could possibly need. Every tree, every fruit, every substance, even joy and growth, right? But the moment that they allowed desire and curiosity to override discernment, they reached for the wrong fruit. And it wasn't just about hunger, it was about temptation and fear and impatience. They chose the immediate, flashy option over what God had already provided. And the consequences were massive, right? And, this story isn't just history, it's a spiritual mirror for us today. How many times do we, out of thirst, desire, you know, loneliness, fear, right? Out of that thirst, we reach for cups that look appealing but aren't aligned with what God has in store for us. We grab relationships, habits, and validation that temporarily fill us, but ultimately leave us exposed, depleted, and off course. And that's why self-care is so much more than an indulgence, right? Self-care is our spiritual armor. I believe it's Proverbs 4:23 that says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding your heart is a form of obedience, right? It's saying no to the counterfeit so that way you can receive the authentic. It's pausing before you engage in a relationship, before, giving your energy, before you accept what looks good but feels a little bit off. And, family, when you think about true self-care, it's actually learning to discern the difference between what satisfies for the moment and what will nourish you for a lifetime. Okay? It's about being honest about the cups that you've been sipping from, understanding which cups have been draining you, leaving you more anxious, a little bitter, which cups are distracting you from your purpose, your peace, and your spiritual alignment. Just a little bit late, but hey, guess what? The message is still going to be served. Okay. Don't worry about it, fam. And here's the spiritual truth. Okay. When you guard your heart and practice discernment, you're not being selfish, right? You're honoring God's design for your life. And every time you take a moment to pause, choose wisely, and reject the poisons, the things that poison your spirit, you're stepping into an abundant life, right? The life that God intended. You're protecting your energy, your joy, and your capacity to walk in alignment with his plan. So just like Adam and Eve had to choose the right fruit, we too must choose wisely. Not every cup is meant for us. Some are lessons and some are tests, but only the ones aligned with God's will truly satisfy the thirst of your soul. So let's talk about the spiritual cup, all right? Because we've talked about what we shouldn't drink from and how desperation can cloud our discernment. But let's dive into the only cup that truly satisfies, which again is that spiritual cup. Jesus said in John 7:37, let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. That's not just a poetic line, you guys. It's a promise of living water, right? The kind that quenches your soul, fills your emptiness, and restores your spirit. Not temporary fixes, not validation from people who don't truly care about you, not the empty highs that fade as quick as they come. It's God's living water, which is real. It is steady. It is eternal. Again, think about Adam and Eve, right? God placed them in the garden with everything that they could possibly need. I mean, down to the beauty, the abundance, the peace, the provision, right? But even in the midst of paradise, their cups, or there was a cup that they were told, don't touch it, right? And inside of that cup, it was a test of discernment, right? But they reached for it anyway. We know the story. And so looking back, that moment reminds us that thirst alone doesn't make a choice right. Just because I'm thirsty, it doesn't make this next move right for me. Just because something looks appealing doesn't mean that it's meant for you. I mean, family, think about it. How many times have you reached for a cup that looked good on the outside but left you empty on the inside? Maybe it was a relationship that seemed exciting at first, but drained every single ounce of your energy. Maybe it was a friendship that asked more than it gave. Maybe it was overcommitting yourself to people or responsibilities that never aligned with your peace. Maybe it was chasing validation or recognition that felt good temporarily, but left your soul craving more. The truth of the matter is, God's cup is the only one that truly satisfies us. And self-care is tied directly to this spiritual discernment, right? We have to begin to understand that self-care is not selfish, it is sacred. It is protecting your mind, your body, and your spirit from the cups that poison and deplete you. So that way you can receive the ones that restore you and replenish you. And so when we think about, practical self-care, right? How do we put this in motion? How do we walk it the same way we talk it? Well, you start your mornings off intentionally, right? Taking time and making room to intentionally pray, meditate, read your scripture, right? The things that reconnect you to God's provision. When you begin the day grounded in living water, you're less likely to reach for cups throughout the day that drain you. So you have to start by filling your cup up with that living water. The things that are going to uplift you and motivate you and carry you throughout the day, in spite of life, right? Next, I want you to examine your relationships. You really have to ask yourself, are the people around you lifting you up, or do they constantly take from you without giving back? Are they filling your cup with love, with encouragement, with truth? Or are they just serving you drama and judgment and emptiness? It's important to set boundaries when needed, understanding that saying no is not being unkind. It's just it's just a necessary step in your self-preservation. You've got to protect your mental and your emotional space. Again, be mindful of what it is that you're consuming. And when I say what it is that you are consuming, I'm not just talking about the food that you eat. I'm talking more so about the social media, right? The news, even the casual conversations can be the cups that fill you with fear, comparison, or anxiety if you're not careful. Welcome back, Coach. So ask yourself, does this content nourish me or does this content poison me? Be mindful of what you consume. And then lastly, prioritize rest and stillness. It is important to understand that, God's living water comes in the quiet moments, the moments when you're not rushing, right? When you're not scrolling, when you're not performing. That spiritual replenishment happens when you allow yourself to just stop, breathe, receive, right? In Psalms 23, it says that he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. Okay? That restoration is what God wants for us. It's not just physical rest, it's emotional, it's mental, it's a spiritual renewal. It's being fully present in your life, fully aligned with your purpose, and truly fully nourished with, the truth that matters. And so when you look at, the spiritual cup, it's more than, avoiding what's bad, right? It's more than that. And, it's about recognizing and drinking deeply from what's good. Okay. Understanding that God's provisions, right, is always better than anything that the world has to offer. It fills the gaps that that the temporary cups leave behind. It restores your dignity, it heals your wounds, and it strengthens your spirit. And here's the beauty. You don't have to chase it, right? You don't have to chase it. You don't have to beg for it. God's cup is already prepared. Your job is to just simply pause, discern, and drink. And here's another relatable truth, right? Sometimes we reject God's cup because it doesn't look exciting, right? Sometimes, it's simple, it's quiet, or even challenging in ways that we didn't expect. See, that's where that discernment comes in. The cup that nourishes you might not always come wrapped in glamour or immediate satisfaction. No fear, no doubt. Welcome in. It might ask you to wait, to trust, to stay disciplined. But when you drink from it, your soul knows that it's not enough, right? Your heart knows what's right. So today, ask yourself, am I sipping from a cup that truly restores me? Am I holding on to cups that look appealing but might leave me empty? Am I willing to wait on God's provisions, even if it means staying thirsty for a little while? See, the spiritual cup is about alignment with God, with yourself, with your peace. It's about protecting your energy, guarding your heart, and choosing the nourishment that sustains you for a lifetime. She ready. Welcome in. Thank you. When you drink from the right cup, every part of you is restored. Your mind is clear. Your heart is at peace. Your purpose is illuminated, right? You are glowing. Your spirit is strengthened. And that's the kind of cup worth waiting for and worth protecting your thirst for. So listen, fam, now we getting into the real talk of this, right? We've talked about the cups that drain us, and we've talked about the spiritual cup. Okay, Tristan Empowers, welcome in. We talked about that spiritual cup, right? The only one that truly nourishes us. But let's break it down with some real life examples, right? I got to make it make sense for us. Okay. So that way you can see how these cups are showing up in your life and how self-care and spiritual discernment can help protect your heart. So I want you guys to think about the cups that you've been drinking from lately, right? These cups that you've been sipping from. Let me start with the cup of comparison. hmm The cup of comparison. Y'all put comparison in the chat for me. Because when I think of the cup of comparison, you scroll through social media, seeing other people's highlight reels, right? The relationships, vacations, success, and suddenly your own life feels like it's missing something, feels like you're lacking something. You are comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. The cup never satisfies you. It just leaves you restless and anxious, right? And so self-care here is unplugging when you need to celebrate. Welcome in, Miss Sherry, right? We've got to understand that we need to unplug, celebrate our own journey, and trust God's timing for our growth. So we're going to say no to the cup of comparison. Hey, Miss Angie, right? Just say no to the cup of comparison, y'all. And listen, I got a lot of cups for y'all, so I need for y'all to understand we just saying no to these cups because these cups don't fill us. So, okay, fine. You don't feel like you sipping from the cup of comparison. What about the cup of convenience? Anybody sipping from the cup of convenience? Maybe you're keeping people in your life because it's easy or familiar, even though they drain you, right? But sometimes the people that you've known forever aren't the people that are meant to stay in your life forever. Setting boundaries is a spiritual act. It's saying, I am protecting my peace and I'm making room for relationships that nourish me. So again, yeah, say no to convenience, right? I'm not sipping from that cup anymore. I'm not keeping you around just because it was convenient. You've always been here, but that doesn't mean you're always going to be here, right? All right. What about the cup of counterfeit love? Ouch, right? Accepting crumbs from someone just to avoid being alone. That cup tastes sweet at first. I'll admit it. But I also admit that it leaves your soul empty. Welcome back, Cardi. Right? Self-care here is recognizing that your value is unprecedented, right? It's the highest of the high. And it's understanding that you have to trust God's timing, knowing that his cup is full and it's worth the wait. So we're no longer going to accept the crumbs that someone wants to give us because we know we deserve it all. She said, "Ooh, get off my toes, ma'am." Listen, I'm just saying, just say no. Imagine if you're sipping from that cup, Kale, me just coming and slapping it right out your hand. I ain't trying to be messy. I'm just saying. Once we know better, we start to do better, right? Right, Miss Sherry? So again, if you haven't sipped from that cup of counterfeit love, maybe you're sipping from the cup of overcommitment. Overcommitment. Saying yes to everything, trying to please everybody, right? Pouring yourself out until your tank is empty. And this is real for so many of us. Thank you, Shy. This is the truth for so many of us, right? As caregivers, parents, professionals, people who always put themselves last. We've got to understand that self-care is learning to say no, to rest, and to honor your limits without guilt. I no longer want to sip from that cup of overcommitment, y'all. I no longer want to have that hustle mentality or think that my worth is tied to how much I can do, how well I can perform. that slides me right into the cup of validation. Anybody else ever sipped from the cup of validation before? Right? I cannot be the only one who was out here chasing approval and praise and recognition from other people instead of grounding my worth with God. Right? Because see, the cup of validation leaves you dependent upon external opinions. But now I'm smart enough to know that spiritual self-care is about choosing, you know, the choosing to find affirmation in my purpose, my values, and the love that God already has for me. Right? So I'm no longer seeking validation from man. I just want to make sure that my name is in that good book. So then that way when I get there, he says, "Well done, my child." Right? That's the only validation that I need. Right? So we're gonna put down that cup of validation. We don't need it. Our worth was established at birth. It didn't say, depending upon how good you do. We were already worthy when we were born. Right? So we're gonna put that cup of validation down. We don't need it. And if we think about it, it don't even taste good, y'all. It's bitter, it's nasty, it don't serve us. Okay. Then there's this cup of past regrets. This one is a tough one, y'all. Right? In this cup, we are replaying mistakes and holding on to guilt and shame. Drinking from this cup keeps us paralyzed in the past. And so self-care here looks like forgiveness for both yourself and for others, and allowing God to restore your heart. Remember, I think it's Psalms 147 that says he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Steph, welcome in, right? So we got to get rid of this cup of past regrets and start to forgive ourselves. Forgive ourselves for not knowing better. Forgive others for not doing better, for not being better. Right? We gotta be willing to let it go and know that, God heals broken hearts. Then let me see, we got the cup of gossip and negativity, right? That's a loud cup, y'all. It's pretty though. Let me tell y'all, it's pretty and the tea is piping hot, right? If you listen, you ain't never had a tea like the tea that is served in the cup of gossip and negativity, right? That cup encourages us to engage in drama, complaining, and toxic conversations that unsettle our mind. This cup spreads poison. Thank you. This cup spreads poison to your spirit, guys. Self-care here is choosing, keyword choosing, positivity and truth and conversations that build rather than break. I don't need the negativity. I don't need the drama. I don't want it. Now that I have a taste of the good life, right? Now that I've been healing, oh, I don't want none of it. If drama is what I seek, I'll tune it on the TV. And even then, I'm very careful, right? I don't want it to consume me. I don't want it to get the best of me. Then let me see. I got another cup for y'all. What about the cup of busyness? The need to constantly be in motion, the distraction, the overscheduling to avoid stillness or self-reflection. The cup of busyness makes you feel productive, but spiritually it leaves you bone dry. And so self-care here is slowing down, resting, and allowing your soul the space that it needs and deserves to breathe. Then there's a cup of toxic ambition, right? And when I say toxic ambition, all my entrepreneurs out there, all my content creators, Let me just let you know you've been sipping from this cup at one point. Some of us are still sipping from this cup. When I say the cup of toxic ambition, I'm referring to those chasing success at the expense of your peace, your relationships, and your health. This cup might look like achievement, but it can leave your spirit depleted. And so self care here looks like aligning your goals with your values and God's purpose for your life. Hey, Nana. And then lastly, you guys, there's this cup of numbing. And it is just as it sounds, right? The cup of numbing is sipping anything that distracts you from your pain. I'm talking about the shopping, the alcohol, the overeating, the binge watching, the doom scrolling, right? This cup is just a temporary escape. And so when we look at self care here, it means facing your emotions, processing them, and seeking healing rather than avoidance. And so, fam, here's the challenge. You've got to ask yourself, which of these cups have you been sipping from lately? Which ones leave you thirsty instead of nourished? And which ones leave you, I don't know, just feeling like you're on E, right? Which ones have you been drinking on out of fear or habit or loneliness or even shame rather than discernment? This is where spiritual and practical self-care intersect. To guard your heart, you must first identify, what it is that you're drinking. And to truly flourish, you have to be willing to set down the cups that poison and wait for those cups that restore you. Let me tell you something. Sometimes that means standing alone for the moment. Sometimes it means saying no when everyone else is saying yes. Sometimes it means walking away from what feels familiar, even if it's uncomfortable, knowing that your peace, your joy, and your spiritual growth are more than just a temporary comfort. The lesson is simple, but so profound, you guys. Not every cup is meant for you. Some cups are lessons, some are tests, some are distractions. But the ones that align with God's plan will nourish you, they will restore you, they will strengthen you. So protect your cup, guard your peace, and drink wisely, drink responsibly, right? And trust that the right cup, the one that God has for you, has already been prepared. So now that we've, identified the cups that drains us, the ones that restore us, it is time for us to do what I call a cup check. All right. This is going to be just a guided reset for your spirit, for your heart, and just your life overall. This is where our self-care becomes actionable, because what's the point in talking about it if we're not going to, put action to it? So I want us to, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm glad that I can make it make sense for you. So again, you guys, this is what I call a cup check. All right. Um, I want you guys to take a deep breath in, inhale through your nose, and exhale. Again, breathe in and exhale. Now, as you continue to focus on your breathing, I want you to think, which cups have I been sipping from lately? Which cups leave me drained, anxious, or unsettled? Which cups have I been drinking from out of fear, loneliness, or habit rather than discernment? Again, continue to focus on your breathing, but I want you to be honest. No judgment, just awareness. Because spiritual growth begins with recognizing the patterns in our life. Deep breath in, let it go. So once you're able to identify the poisoned cups in your life, I want you to spend some time today writing down the cups that are harming you. These are the ones that steal your peace, distract your purpose, or leave you spiritually thirsty. Maybe it's a toxic relationship. Maybe it's a draining habit or negative self talk. I want you to spend some time today naming them, owning them. Because recognition is our first step to release. And the same way we take that breath in and then we let it go, we have to understand that that release is ours. We can choose to let it go. And so once we identify them, we begin to release them and we set boundaries so they can't return. So imagine filling all of these cups, these poison cups, and you've got them all sitting out in front of you. Now, imagine yourself setting all of those cups down. Picture placing them on the table away from you, where they can't control your energy or your choices. And as you're putting these cups on the table, I want you to say to yourself, I release what does not serve me. I release what does not serve me. I protect my heart and my peace. I protect my heart and my peace. I am worthy of a cup that restores me. I am worthy of a cup that restores me. And, if needed, set boundaries in your real life. That could simply mean saying no, creating space, muting negativity, unfollowing, blocking, right? Letting go of people or habits that drain you. Remember, Proverbs 4:23 reminds us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, as you're sitting there envisioning this table filled with all of these cups, I want you to reach for your spiritual cup, the only cup that truly satisfies. When you look at that cup, it might look like peace, purpose, joy, spiritual alignment, or God's living water just filling your soul. And I want you to imagine yourself drinking deeply from it. Feel it restore your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Inhale. Exhale. Ask yourself, does this cup bring me peace or does it still it? Does this build me up or break me down? Does this align with who I'm becoming or drag me back to who I used to be? Inhale. Exhale. This is your reminder that not every cup is meant for you. and that the right cup is always worth the wait. Now, let's turn this reflection into action. Today, I want you guys to pick one practical step that you can take today to protect your cup and align with God's provision. That actionable step may look like you choosing to limit time on social media or with the people that are draining you. It might mean saying no to one commitment that is leaving you overextended. You can journal about a habit or a thought pattern that you're ready to release. Thank you. Or simply just spend 10 minutes in prayer, meditation, or stillness to reconnect with God's living water. I need for you guys to understand that this is not just a one-time exercise, right? This cup check is something that you can do daily, weekly, or whenever life leaves you thirsty. It's creating awareness, setting boundaries, and intentionally drinking from the things that restore you, right? Spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Remember that your cup is sacred. So guard it, protect it, wait for the right water. Because when you drink from the cups that align with God's plan, everything else in your life flows better. Everything in your life flows better. Your peace, your energy, your relationships, your purpose. So let's commit it together, right? There's strength in numbers. Let's commit together. No more sipping from what poisons us. No more settling for the temporary fixes. Today, we are guarding our hearts. We are embracing discernment. And we are going to drink deeply from the cup that truly restores our souls. Now, family, as we wrap up today's journey, I want you to hold this truth. Again, this started from a single quote from my brother. Never become so thirsty that you drink from any cup that is presented to you. Be selective, be smart, be wise. Life will always hand us cups, some sweet, some bitter, right? Some disguised with good. And, when we're parched, when we're hungry for love and validation, attention, or approval, it is easy for us to grab the first cup that we see. But not every cup is meant to nourish us. Some are lessons, some are distractions, and some are traps, right? So the lesson today is this: your spirit, your heart, your peace, they are sacred. You have to guard them. You have to protect them. Drink only from the cups that truly restore, the cups that align with God's purpose for your life, and the ones that nourish your soul. Being selective doesn't mean that you're being cold or distant. It just makes you wise. Being discerning isn't about, making you unloving. It makes you strong. Being patient and trusting God's timing doesn't make you weak. It makes you faithful. So every single time that you pause and reflect and choose your cup with intention, you honor yourself and you honor your journey. Again, remember Adam and Eve in the garden. Even in paradise, desire can lead you astray. But when we serve a God whose cup is always full, his provision is perfect. His timing is perfect. His living water satisfies us like no other cup can. So take this with you into the remainder of your week. Spread it out over your relationships, into your decisions, and just slow down. Examine what is being offered to you. Ask yourself, is this cup going to nourish me? Does it restore my peace? Does it align with who I am becoming? And if the answer is no, let it go. Protect your cup, protect your spirit, and trust that God has already prepared that cup for you. Yes, Cardi said, I am drinking from the cup of life. I want to leave you guys with this affirmation today. And it is simply that you are worthy of the cups that restore you. You do not need to settle for anything less than what nourishes your soul. Be selective, be smart, be wise. Until next time, you guys, keep your heart full, your spirit aligned, and your cup guarded. Know that you are loved, you are worthy, and that your soul deserves nothing less than the water that restores it. Now, before we part ways, I'm going to leave you guys with a little love and light. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels just out of reach. And know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love you all to life, and I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. Be intentional, be mindful, guard your heart, and above all else, drink from the cups that truly satisfy. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I cannot wait to connect with you all again soon. Until next time, thank you.